Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis and quite excited about the episode that you have lined up tonight because it's a very interesting story of someone who's literally on his way up and has really worked with the president. I'm calling him the president's designer and I'm sure he's laughing, he's wondering. But before I get to introduce my guest, I'd like to let you know that we are here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur. One of the core things for any particular entrepreneur is your network, because your network is your net worth. And at the Capital Club, your network, you're guaranteed to have a very, very interesting network around you. The guest I'm speaking about is Ashok Sanny, a fashion designer and the president's designer. How are you doing, Ashok?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
I'm all good. Nice to see you, looking
Nice
sharp as always.
Thank you.
No, ni makasi. I'm
Something has to speak.
Something has to speak.
Yes.
The tailor in you, looking very, very sharp.
Thank you.
Before we start the conversation, what exactly are you most grateful for today?
Just being here and being able to celebrate another Eid. Something that you don't take for granted these days because of the world we're in today. So I'm grateful for being here today and just being alive today.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, you have a very interesting story, and I know you were speaking off camera how your journey has been before getting to where you are.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just take us through your upbringing.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? How was your upbringing like?
I've come from a very humble background. I'm the last born of 4 siblings.
All male or?
No. Two female, 1 brother. So we've lived most life, most in the humble areas of Nairobi. Mostly raised by my mother. My father passed on when I was very young. So it's been a process of surviving every single day, day by day, until getting to a point where you can decide you want to create something for yourself, and this is where I am today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking about the difficult beginnings, just paint a picture. You know, everybody always say, "Nil talk Mbali," but you never know Mbali ni wapi.
Yeah.
Ambia mwalimu wa maths.
Mostly in my early days, I was raised in Majengo. It's just next to Gikomba.
Yes.
That's why I think
the Majengo slums.
Yes.
I've been there once.
Yeah.
And I remember the time I was there, I was told by 6 lazima utoke. Because if you're not part of that, they'll know you.
And
they'll
6
come
you
for
should
you.
be home.
Yes.
Because if you're not home, things that happen after the dark, you cannot be party to it. So we lived in we used to actually sleep in one bed. It was a 6x6, I remember.
All of you, 4 siblings,
yes,
plus your mother?
And my mother, so all of us. So if you had to turn, you had to ask for permission at night. So it has to be unanimous.
So you have to choose your favorite side.
Yes. So make sure you pick your side, because if you change, you're inconveniencing everyone else. So we lived there for quite a period of time, because after my father died, unfortunately we lost everything. So my mother had to start from scratch. She was a city council askari for a long period of her
your mother?
life. Yes, my father. My mother, sorry. She was a city council askari for most of her life. I think almost 10 or more years. And then she raised all of us, the 4 of us, until university level.
Wow.
So it's been a struggle, but it's always a learning process. And something J. Cole said, there's beauty in struggle. If you don't enjoy the struggle, you'll never enjoy the success that comes after. Yeah, and it's good you struggle when you're young, then you enjoy the fruits of being successful when you're older. So we're trying to get to that point. Interesting.
Yeah. And speaking about just growing, because you mentioned growing in Majengo, it's a slum area, and it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind going through that particular phases? Because I know kids are usually very bright. You're the last born, you can see that your mother is struggling, you're all sleeping in the same bed. What was going on through your mind through that particular period of time? Did you have any dreams, or you're like just living a day at a time?
Actually, I usually used to tell myself that if my father was not able to do it, and my brother can't be able to do it, then I'll be the one to do it. Because at the end of the day, we cannot live in a slum for the rest of our lives. You had to move on, you have to grow. So I usually told myself, when it gets to a point where I can be a man and say, I'll take this family to the next level, that's what I will do. So I used to, even my passion for clothing came from there. I used to say that one day, one time, I could not stand being employed. Although when you're going to school, every day people tell you, oh, you have to finish your education, get a job. But my aim was to build a business that could last for a very long time, so that no one, even my children or my grandchildren, will not experience what we were able to experience when we were young. You'll not want someone to go back and live the same life that you lived. You create something different for them. So I used to tell myself that once I become a man, this is the life I I'm going to change this life that you're having here.
Interesting. And you've mentioned something very interesting that you didn't want, what's it called, what your father or your brother could not do, you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that your dad died very early.
Yeah.
At what particular age did he die?
When I was 6 years old.
When you're 6 years old.
Yes.
So what memory do you still have of your dad?
Actually, he was a very sharp man.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't a sharp dresser,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a very sharp man. He was a very good businessman. But being a good businessman doesn't mean you're a good money manager. That's one thing he failed at. When he died, he was at his peak. He had a very good business. He used to do it in Uganda. So he used to get coffee, berries from here, take it to Uganda, had a processing plant, refine the coffee, then
he had a processing plant.
Yeah, in Uganda.
Yeah.
It was actually very, very cheaper for him.
Uh-huh.
So, and we lived a while. We lived there for a while when
in
he was
Uganda.
building his business.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, he died very young when he was starting to build his business. He died very young.
What happened?
He had diabetes, and at that time, I think we African men didn't take seriously being ill.
Yeah.
So, like another African man, he just said, he just assumed it's something else. And at that point, when you have diabetes, when you go to hospital, your symptoms are the same as malaria.
Yeah.
So they give you quinine. They used to give people quinine injection. So once they give him a quinine, when they give him quinine injection, he died in the next 24 hours.
Wow.
So because quinine does not work very well with diabetic people. It's poison actually. So that's why. So he died at his peak, and then the business, because there's no one to take over the business at that time. Everyone was very young. The oldest of us, I think, was 12 years old. I think that was my sister. So no one could take over the business. My mother didn't have any idea on how to do the business. Yeah. The business failed eventually. Wow. So that's why we started now going back to the slums.
So you moved from Uganda, came to Nairobi?
Yeah, because we are from here, so we had to start from scratch.
Interesting. And you've mentioned something very interesting, that your dad didn't have very good money management skills.
Yes.
What did you observe? Because it's very interesting that a 6-year-old, you would have observed all these things.
Well, I didn't observe it then,
yes.
But once you come and sit down and look at it now, you say, okay, he wasn't very good money manager. He used to spend, because he used to come with a lot of money at the end of the day.
Ugandan shillings or Kenyan shillings
in a paper bag.
In a paper bag.
I remember the peel paper bag, the green one.
Yes.
He used to come with money in that
Zile
bag.
za calendar.
Yes. And then when he leaves the end of tomorrow, when he goes back to the office, he doesn't have any money in his pocket. So he even used to pay school fees for the neighbors' kids who will not be able to pay school fees. He used to feed people, his whole family, from his mother to the last born sister he had. So he was a very bad money manager when it comes to saving and investing in other things, because money was coming in, so he was very sure money will continue coming in. And then that's why I think he lost the plot.
Interesting. And what are some of the lessons you'll take away from, from having probably seen your dad also maybe not be very good in terms of money management? What are some of the aspects about his life that you have incorporated in your life to ensure that that doesn't go on forward into the next generation? I
think you have to be very careful in terms of, because I think right now we are in a better place than we were at that time, and we have a lot of information on our fingertips. We have the media, we have everything. You can get information. If you don't have information or you don't have any information, I think you're just being ignorant. So investing in other things, creating wealth, because I think whatever you're building for the future has to be strong enough so that people who are coming in can be able to continue with that, and then building a business that proceeds generations that you have. So you have to build a business where you incorporate your children into the business. Like if my son grows, he becomes old enough, he can be involved in the business, so he knows even if I'm not there, the business can continue. My partner, his name is Fadil. If he has to know that when he comes into the business, he's doing the business day to day. Even the children, his children who are coming in, can understand the business, so that the business continues even if you're not there, so that the family can be able to have a source of income.
Yes,
whatever happens.
Interesting. And something about you is like, okay, so you've grown up in Majengo, but you eventually get yourself to the university. How difficult was it getting there? Because you mentioned that your mother was working at the city council. You guys had 4 particular siblings. Your mother really struggled to get you there. My mother, she is one very smart money manager, I can tell you that, because she was able to pay school fees and university fees for 4 children. Wow.
To completion, because I was the last one.
Under the city council?
Yes.
Salary?
So the SACCOs, the chairmas and everything else came into And then she
ladies are magicians.
Yes, when it comes to money, they're very smart.
Yes.
And I think if you could take her now and give her a accountant somewhere else, she'll do a very marvelous job.
Interesting.
Yeah, because it's all about how smart she was in terms of what she made. And she never had an extra income from anywhere else. It was just the same income. And it was a very meager income, even up until now, because I think she's still paying those loans up until now for our education.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was very smart in how she spent her money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what did you go to the university to do? What was the aspirations you had back then before things changed?
Actually, I wanted to be a lawyer.
You wanted to be a lawyer?
Yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer. I was very passionate about. I was very good in arguing. I can argue out in everything.
Even all women can argue. So in that particular perspective, all women can be lawyers.
All of them. That's true. That's true. I usually tell mine every day.
Yeah.
You can be a very good lawyer.
Your wife.
Yes. You can be wrong, but she'll argue out, and at the end of the day, be right.
They can be lawyers and financial managers at the same time.
That's very true. That's true. Yeah. So after a bit of convincing that law is not the path to take, because it was very there are a lot of people doing law. So that's why I decided, okay, because my aim was to start my own business. Let me just do business. So I did BBIT, Business Information Technology. Yes, yeah.
And so after, you did it at University of Nairobi, right?
No, JKUAT.
JKUAT.
Through ZTech.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So after graduating, what was your path? Did you go into employment? Did you go directly into business? What was your journey like after finishing university?
When I was still in university, I think second year, that's when I started making clothes. I started the business of making clothes. So I used to look for 1 or 2 clients on a day-to-day. In a month, maybe you get 2 clients. You'll be able to make 2 or 3 suits.
So what kind of clothes are you making back then?
Same. Because my passion was always in suits. Because I always told myself, suits will get you anywhere. And then everyone has to wear suits in a point in their life.
It suits you.
Yeah, it suits you. Yeah. So even if you don't wear suits every day, you'll wear a suit to a wedding or a funeral.
Yeah.
So you'll always wear a suit.
Even the
whether
day you die.
Whether you know it or you don't know, you'll wear a suit.
But it's the default, even if you die, it's a suit.
So it's a product that will never go out of market. Yeah, so I started making suits at that time, jackets and trousers.
And how did you, so you learned how to become a tailor? How did that particular interest come about?
Actually, my interest was never sitting down and stitching a garment. My interest was creating a product that people can be able to embrace. Because at that time in the market, you could only buy ready-to-wear suits. Yes. And then tailoring was just a juakali,
So you buy the ones, big ones from Turkey,
and
then the tailor like
So you could not get exactly what you wanted. You just stuck to whatever is available in the market. And that was very limiting to most people. Because if I thought that, then I have maybe a million other people thinking the same. So why not provide for that kind of market? So that's why I started. Because my passion was basically suits. Even if people won't buy, I'll wear them. Yeah, every day. Actually, in third year, I was the only guy going to class in a suit. People wondering, why did you just go to Strathmore?
Because I was in Strathmore, and for us it was like always wearing officials because I know.
Actually, when I was in campus, most of my clients were Strathmore students.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you started doing it while in university?
Yeah, in second year. Yeah.
And who are your target clientele then? So you mentioned Strathmore students. Who are also your first clients? How exactly was it in your first?
Basically, it was just friends and family at the beginning. You could just have friends and family getting a piece or two just to get to support your business. You didn't basically know who your client was. You didn't have that business mindset where this is my clientele, this is who I'm supposed to make clothes for. You didn't have any of that plan or anything or target market. You just wanted to make clothes for people. You didn't have that broader understanding of business itself in terms of marketing and everything else. Yeah.
Interesting. So primarily you started off like it's more experimenting.
Yes.
And why did you decide to name the business after your name? And at what particular point did you decide? So when you started off, did you have another name that you were trading with, or you're just trading as just a shop? Yeah,
because basically in the beginning, actually just came from social media. Because in the beginning, you could only market your business on social media. So you could not, that's the only form of marketing you could afford. So I used to market on my Facebook page. So that's how the business name came in. Just call that guy called Ashok, he'll make you a suit. So that's how the business name came in. I didn't have any idea about branding or everything else. I just knew I just wanted to make a product. And once people accept the product, then I'll think about everything else. Because I was juggling school and I was juggling the business. And it was a very, very small business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how vital would you say you having studied it in university was for you getting to be where you are right now? How important was that aspect of starting business when you're in university? When you look back, when you reflect back? Because I think you always know the beauty of where you are by looking back in your past. Yes.
It's very, very fundamental because when you're in university, you are able to make mistakes and learn from them. Because when you're there, you don't have, someone is paying your school fees.
True.
Someone is paying your rent.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of room to make mistakes. You can take a risk because it's not going to affect you.
At least you have a place you still go and sleep.
Yeah, you still go and sleep and eat at the end of the day. So that's why it started. If it started then it built the foundation for me to learn from. Every mistake I did, I had room to learn and rectify the mistake. But once you're older, you don't have a lot of room, especially like you're saying, as a man and in the economic environment, you don't have room to make mistakes. Once you make one or two mistakes, you're out. Yeah. So at that time, you had a lot of room to learn from your mistakes and grow.
Interesting. What will you say were some of the mistakes you made earlier on that from when you look back, you can't make that mistake at this particular point in time?
Understanding the product very well. I did not understand the product very well. I didn't take time to understand the product very well. I did not know basically money management at that time. Yes, because whatever was coming in was what you had. And then I did not understand basic principles of business, branding, marketing, financial management, running a business, structures and everything, all of these things. If I had, let's say, a mentor or someone who had done it before and learned from them, it would have been very easy for me to grow the business further than it is right now.
Interesting. And when you started off, so you mentioned that you were primarily serving your friends and the colleagues you had around you. But what would you say was that particular big business you got initially?
The first business I got, it's actually from Z-Tech. Because I worked there for a while, then I had to leave because it was not for me. Being a desk jockey was not for me. So the first business they gave me was a contract. They had this beauty pageant they usually have in the university. So they called me in the office and asked me, okay, what can you do? Because I was still a student there. What can you do? So we have this, and you've shown us that you're trying to create a business, because I'm already making suits for some of the staff members and students. So they asked me, what can you do here? So they gave me a contract. That was the first contract I had. That was the first, I think, 150 Kenyan shillings I made in my life. You had a business back then, or it was just? It was just the same. It was just me doing business. Yeah, so it's just the same. So they told me, we're not looking to outsource this. Whatever our students can do, you do it, so that you can grow your business to where you want it to go.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, actually, those guys empowered me. At that point, they empowered me to grow as a businessman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what did you do with the money? Because you mentioned that.
Actually, I saved the money because the second contract I had, that was the money I used to do the contract. Yeah, it was Miss World Kenya. I think it was in 2014. That was the first money I used, apart from getting because it was money that helped me to get also a loan to do that contract. That was the first contract I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then what's from there? So you've already started making money, and you'd mentioned that your interest was not in tailoring. So you used to outsource someone to tailor for you, then you look for business.
Yes.
So how did you used to go about that? The person you used to outsource from was your full-time employee, or at what point did you decide to employ?
Yes, because I got a small space in Umoja. It was just like a small kibanda with one machine and then one tailor. He was a very young tailor. So he was younger than me, so he could listen to what I was telling him. But he also just knew the fundamentals of tailoring, just making. And then now you have different cuts, different fittings. And you have to learn how to cut differently and how the fitting is different. Because at that time, people like a more fitted jacket and a more fitted trouser. And they were used to making just basic wide fitted outfits. So getting to that point together was a bit difficult. But at that time, you could leave him work, he could do. And then you go to class, then come back in the evening.
Also, you're employed full-time?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So also you used to like get business when you're off school, take it to him, still study and juggle all that stuff. And for how long did you do that?
It was, I think, around until I finished campus.
Wow.
That's around 2-3 years.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave it at that. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then you're going to find out from Umoja, how did you make it out to State House and how the journey has managed to move. So see you after the break. So welcome back to the show. Before you went on a break, you were just discussing the earlier journey of Ashok Sanny on how exactly he started off his business out in Umoja, and now you just want to travel and see where exactly he is right now. So you started off in Umoja. So you told me 2-3 years. At what particular point now did you start expanding the business? Because I presume, what's it called, the initial phases you're juggling between school and the business. So at what particular point now did you decide now, let me do it fully as a business after school?
Because after campus, you don't have any excuse. No one is now paying your rent. No one is paying your school fees. You have to become a man. Yes, you have to fend for yourself. And then back in Umoja, because the premises itself was very fragile, everything was stolen. So someone broke in, stole
and
everything.
Still,
Baka uzi and buttons.
I
think it was personal or something, but the way it was cleaned out, it was like someone else is moving in. So you sit down and evaluate and say, okay, I can't go back to the same place.
He didn't leave a thread of doubt.
Nothing. Even fabrics that were cut.
It was a fabricated
It was. I even think if I met that person today, I think that was personal. It was not even a thief. It was personal. So
he stole everything.
Everything. That place was clean. Yeah. So then we decided, let's move our operation somewhere close to home, somewhere more secure. We moved to CBD now, downtown. And now we had a bigger space. Then we had other tailors there who were outsourcing the same space. So we could be able to expand the business and say, okay, I'm just not doing just jackets and trousers. Let me just do waistcoats, shirts, and everything else, because you had other people you could outsource to. So that's where the business started now, as a business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What are the initial years? Because I know one of the things about any particular new enterprise is the challenges of the initial life, capital, or the struggles of getting clients. What was the struggles like in the initial years?
Actually, the most problem I usually had was now the quality of the product itself. That's what I struggled a lot most of the time, because the fabric that was available was just limited in terms of texture, print, pattern. So we could only use what's available in the market. So you could not grow and expand and be creative as you want. So most of the time was just creating a product, because even these guys who were tailoring, they're used to the old school type of tailoring. So if the product you want to present a quality product, something that you can present to someone and say, if you're looking for an investor, this is a product I have. It was not that top-notch product, because the quality of the fabric was a bit low, the quality of stitching was also a bit low. So that's what I struggled with for a long period of time in those early stages of starting the business. And then, unfortunately, that place that we moved into the second time, it burned down.
Why?
Then we started so it was a restart again now, the second time. So we had to reboot a second time. And then now, that's where you have to now decide, okay, this system is still very Juakali. How do you protect yourself from this? How do you create a business that lasts? You don't have to reboot and restart over again every time. So that's when we started the business itself. That's when now Fadil, my partner, came in and decided, let's make it a bit more professional. That's where the business started from. That's why we moved now to where you met us in Garden Chambers. That's where we started creating. We registered a business as a business, started working on the brand itself, branding, marketing, personnel, creating structures that we pulled at that moment in time, bookkeeping, accounting, everything else. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And you mentioned your partner, Fadil. One of the biggest challenges is in terms of having a partner for any particular business, because that gets to a point in time whereby either differences happen and stuff happen. How have you managed to be with your partner for all this while? What exactly are some of the systems? Because I think in the world of business, the biggest breakup is with partners.
Yeah.
So how have you managed to keep it at this particular point?
It's basically just comes down to mutual understanding. Because when he came to me, he was a client. He used to see how I used to struggle most of the time. Because he was a client, but we used to live in the same area. So he used to see me every day. And then this struggle I used to go through. Because I was running 2 businesses. I had a small restaurant just close to home, and then I was doing this other thing. So he could see how much I was struggling even just to deliver his garment. So because he came to understand the process, because it got to a point where he said, okay, let's go to this workshop of yours, let's see how you go through the process itself. So he came and understood where the problems were, and then he said, okay, how can we improve this and take it to the next level? Yeah.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
And in terms of now growing the brand, because I know everybody now knows Ashok Sanny, you've worked with so many different celebrities. What would you say are some of the instrumental things that you've done in terms of growing this particular brand?
A lot of sacrifice. We as the two of us, we've had a lot of sacrifice. We've sacrificed a lot to grow the brand. And then we sat down and said, okay, it's not about money. It's about the vision and how we want to build the business to go to where we want it to be. We have to sacrifice a lot in terms of our personal life, our income and everything else to take the business next level. So the business has been growing consistently because of a lot of sacrifice that we've done, and then we agreed we have a common ground and a common understanding of where we want the business to grow and where we want it to go. So we integrate our ideas, we integrate where we want our visions, put it together, and then take the business to the next level.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the biggest story that came out was when you dressed the current president. Then I think he's the deputy. How did that come about?
It's actually very funny because it was there was a client who came in. You know how most of our business is just referrals.
Yeah.
So you have a client, you do a wedding for them. So they bring you another client who wants to do a wedding. So the lady who we did a wedding for, her best friend now, who was a maid of honor, was getting married now. So the person, the groom, he came to us. We did the outfits. Then their wedding was in March 2020.
Yeah.
COVID came.
Yes.
So a week before their wedding, COVID came. So they had to postpone their wedding indefinitely.
But you already designed?
We had already made the outfits. So we were in constant communication over a long period of time until I think for 3-4 months. Yeah. Because now the wedding was postponed, there was no plan, and everything else was standstill.
Yes.
So one day he just called me. He said, "Okay, my guy, a father of my friend wants, they have a traditional wedding and they want an outfit." So he didn't necessarily tell me who it was. He just told me, "Just be standby tomorrow. If he has time, I'll let you know so we can go." So the next morning around 6 a.m. he calls me and tells me, "Okay, I'll need you to meet me somewhere by 9 a.m. So I left home, rushed to Fadili's place, and then we went to meet him. So we were following him behind his car. So we didn't know where we were going.
You don't know who you're going to meet?
We're just following the car. He just want to follow me.
Yes.
So we get to Karen, we take the junction, we get into that space, and then, because I didn't know it was a vice president's residence. So I just know he was a big guy. But I was asking myself, who's this big guy who has AP officers on his gate? So once we get in now is when you start to realize, okay, this is the president, this is the vice president. So that's where we met him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How was the experience like? So you met him to do a fitting? What exactly?
Yeah, because first, basically, you don't have more than 2 minutes with him. Yeah, because he's a very busy guy. So you usually, we were there, I think, for 5 minutes maximum. I was taking measurements, we just met him, took measurements, took a picture, and everything else we discussed with his wife. The current first lady.
He didn't negotiate?
Yeah, but no, he doesn't negotiate.
Aqua one?
No. Even the design, the cut and everything we did with Madame and Charlene. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how would you say that experience was in terms of your journey, considering you started off in Umoja, and then here you are with the then former vice president, now the current president.
Yeah.
How was the experience that
It
way?
was a very humbling experience because at the end of the day, you when you sit back and take stock, it shows you the growth in terms of if this guy can recognize the level of work you're doing to get to a point where you can say, okay, I can wear that garment from this guy. You take stock and say, okay, now we're heading into that direction. Whether the relationship is permanent or temporary, but it has shown you that there's a level of growth you have been from that point you are to this point now. From that point when someone you are in a kibanda and then you are even getting electricity from the neighbor you could not afford to. It was a very humbling experience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you've established yourself is that now you primarily deal with high-end, right?
Yeah.
And you've established, why did you decide this kind of clientele is what exactly I want to serve, and what exactly pushed you to that?
COVID. I won't lie to you.
COVID
was like I say, every cloud has a silver lining.
Yes.
COVID was the cloud, and now coming up to this was the silver lining because the market was saturated, and then we were all making the same product, getting fabric from the same place, doing the same cutting and stitching and everything else. So when COVID came, you have a lot of time to think and say, okay, which kind of direction should this business take?
Yeah.
So your normal clients don't have any money to buy your product. You're all the same. So the clientele you are catering to don't have money. The weddings are not there. The graduations are not there. So who has money in their pocket, whether there's COVID or not? It's the 1%. So how do you cater to the 1%? What kind of product do they need and service? So that's when I came to learn that we have to change our business model to cater for this kind of clientele, because this is a kind of clientele that will surpass any kind of disaster or economic environment.
Interesting.
Yes.
And how exactly was it getting to the 1%?
It's not very easy because you have to change your marketing strategy from mass marketing to targeted marketing. Targeted marketing is harder than mass marketing. Mass marketing is more expensive, but it's easier. Targeted marketing is very, very hard because you have to get into a room with these people, and getting into those rooms is very, very difficult. You have to understand who your clients are, what they want, what they need, and what they require from you. So coming to understand that, having that target persona, creating a persona of your clientele, and then getting to where they are in those rooms has been the hardest thing to do. Because now you also have to change your lifestyle and your way of living and understanding of things to their way of living and understanding of things. You don't do the same things you're doing.
True.
If you go to the gym, you go to the gym where they are. You don't go just to work out. If you
you have to change your gym.
You have to change everything else. If you have to go to eat, go to eat where they eat. So that you are in the room, because they have to understand that you're one of them. You're one of them. They don't just, for them it's just about the cost or how much it is. For them it's all about how do you understand who we are and what we represent and what we like. If you're making for me a suit, you just don't make for me a suit to cover my body. You're making for me a garment that will get me the next deal, will open for me the next door, will make my next client understand who I am or what I represent. So getting into those spaces, understanding that has been the most difficult thing, and you're still working on that up until now.
Interesting. So what are some of the radical things you have to do in order to get to the 1%?
Basically, first of all, is the product itself. We had to change our cutting, our stitching, our source of fabrics. We had to change everything else, our understanding, our mindset, our marketing strategy. We had to change the whole business itself to come to understand and be able to get into this kind of rooms. So we have to change our whole strategy, the whole business itself, and the whole business model.
Interesting. Yeah. And so with that particular drastic change, because you've moved from the mass now to the 1%, of course, also that to mention that also the sourcing has changed. What would you say will be the most expensive garment you've ever had to make at this particular point?
I made a suit, I think it was around 350,000 Kenyan shillings. And before COVID, the most expensive suit I had made was 35,000 Kenyan shillings.
So it was like a 10x.
Yes. So we had that drastic change. Took a lot, and it was very, very expensive to get to that point. So to get to understand why this garment might cost this much, Even me, sometimes I cannot afford most of the suits I make. I don't wear most.
Of course, cool stock.
It's cool stock. I cannot afford most of these fabrics. These fabrics are very
yes,
expensive. And then when you see the fabric, you touch it, you understand why this fabric is this expensive. And then also our taxation platform does not allow that. It's very, very expensive. Because now we're being taxed. For 1 meter of fabric, you pay 35% tax. Can you imagine if we didn't have that cost on that fabric? That 350,000 suit will cost 200,000. And then most of people will have access to. If someone was buying one suit, he'll buy three. You see, so we have more business, and then our product will be more out there compared to people trusting an Italian tailor coming here and doing the same thing and charging them 10 times more. When you tell someone that suit you're wearing for Brioni, okay, they're well in advance in terms of technology and stitching, but it's the same fabric, it's the same suit. We can make the same thing for you here at 40% less cost. But because it's a white man, he's coming here.
You're getting the color.
Yeah.
Interesting. And primarily now, what's it called? You've mentioned the 1%, and you're still very active in the business.
Yeah.
How does your day-to-day look like? Because you've mentioned you're not involved in the tailoring. You're involved mostly in the business. How does your day look like as as the designer?
The creative part is mostly now, when you understand who your clientele are, is tailoring the products that you have for that client. So mostly what we've come up with is our clients don't just look for garments. If you just want to buy a suit, you can buy it anywhere. But you're looking for service, convenience, access, and that's what we're supposed to provide. And then most of our clients are very busy. They don't want to think about, okay, I'm wearing that suit with that tie, with that shirt. They don't have time for that. They want to get into the house, understand that tomorrow I have a meeting, I have to wear a suit. So your job is coming up with that full wardrobe. There's something we have come up with, is called Imperium. Imperium is creating a full wardrobe for a client. So if my client is Ian, I know Ian, this is his environment. He goes to work, this is what he does at work. He goes to the gym, he goes to the country club, he goes to brunch or something with the family on a Sunday, he goes to church. So you create a full wardrobe.
For the whole week?
For the whole week. So that you don't have to think about what you're going to wear. So that's what we call Imperium. Imperium is creating a full wardrobe for a single client so that they don't have to buy or think about clothing for the next 12 months. So that's what we do. On a day-to-day, that's what I come up with. I get a client, I come up with that mood board for everything, including a simple thing as a socks. What kind of socks should they wear in which kind of an environment? You cannot wear happy socks and you're going to a board meeting. You understand? You cannot wear a very shiny tie and you're going to a board meeting. But you can wear a pink khaki trouser when you're going to the country club, because you're just going to relax and play golf or have friends over. So that's the idea. So on a day-to-day, basically, apart from meeting clients and tailoring to their needs, it's just making sure the business is running by itself.
Interesting. And you've mentioned some of the Italian designers or maybe the international designers that you have to compete with. How difficult has it been trying to convince, especially being in a country where we're importing everything and we pride ourselves in wearing Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and they're all those fake ones. How difficult has it been in terms of now convincing also the 1% that you're trying to target to have a lot of pride in the international brand?
The good thing about the 1% is they understand and they know basically what they want. So once you get into the room, they just see what you have to present. If it's a fabric, they'll see the same fabric. They have the suits in the house, they see this is the same fabric. So if it's a product itself, you show them what you've done, they'll understand. They will just give you a chance. Once you get you into the room, you have a chance. It's all about you proving yourself.
Getting into the room.
Yes, proving that you can do what you were saying you can do. Yeah.
Interesting. And you've worked with so many different, You've worked with so many different, celebrities and different particular renowned personalities. How would you say the experience has been? And primarily, okay, besides the president, I know it can never, probably you've gone higher than the president. maybe some of the interesting personalities you've worked with.
What I've come to learn from all of these people is they have different needs. And when it comes to the celebrities, you have to be very, very careful who you're dealing with. Because if you're dealing with a celebrity, it's basically maybe it's a brand ambassador or something. So you have to be very careful. Do they bring you the right return on investment that you're investing in them? Do they understand what you want to achieve? Because if I'm taking a musician and I'm dressing him in a 250,000 suit, what kind of clientele is he bringing me? The people who are watching and listening to his music are those people the same people who buy the suits.
True.
So you have to be very, very careful and very, very precise in terms of who you're working with. There are also clients who are bringing you the diaspora market. There are celebrities who bring you the diaspora market, people who are being watched outside the country.
Yes. Yeah.
So those are the kind of people, if you want to target the diaspora market, those are the kind of people you go to. And it's not every single celebrity.
True.
And then you come and meet renowned people who also don't appreciate what you do. And then you have that problem of
proving yourself
to them.
350,000.
Yeah, land, beats. No. They don't value.
Because if they can wear land.
Because if you go to Savile Row, the cheapest suit you can get is 560,000 Kenyan shillings. And you don't ask them about price.
And you don't even bargain.
You don't even bargain.
And it's in dollars.
You don't discuss price. You just discuss what you want and what you want to be tailored, what kind of cloth and who you are. That's all you discuss. You don't discuss about price.
It's true.
But when Ashok tells you it's 250,000, you want to compare it with a 50 by 100 land that you saw somewhere else. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. And then suit ya Turkey ni 25,000, where 10 times more. Why? You see, they don't understand and value the art itself of tailoring and stitching. Because bespoke, if you're making a bespoke jacket and a bespoke suit, it will take you at least 7 days to sit down and stitch and finish, because it's handmade.
True.
So someone is sitting there doing your garment for 7 days. They go home, they come back the next day doing the same thing. So how do you appreciate this person? You don't appreciate the skill, because it's a skill. Not everyone can do it. And most of the tailors will tell you we do bespoke, Bespoke is a word being used very loosely.
It's like organic.
It's like organic, very true. So you have to understand what bespoke is, and that's what you're trying to do, educate the market and make people understand what basically bespoke is and what is made to measure that you usually do every single day.
Wow, interesting. I think it's people have been taken to class. So before you get to wind up the show, I have like 10 questions. So it will be like a quick fire. So you can just answer whatever comes to your mind. So what's the greatest risk you've ever taken?
Serving the 1%.
Interesting.
Yes.
What is your favorite month?
November, because there's a lot of business in November.
See, no shave November. Me, I could not say that. What's your favorite word?
Quality.
What time do you usually go to bed at night?
Because I usually get to home at around 10, 11, so basically midnight.
Interesting. Describe your style in one word.
Bespoke.
Interesting. What were you afraid of as a child?
Going back to being poor.
What has been your favorite age so far?
30s.
What is one of your nicknames?
Master Tailor.
What item is worth spending more money on?
Item. For me, it's a suit. It's a suit.
It suits you.
Yeah.
If you could afford any car, which one would you drive?
I'm a very big fan of a Bentley. Yes.
Interesting. So it's coming.
Yes.
With the 1%.
Hopefully.
You should. You can't be the 1% if you don't even have the 1%. But thank you so much for having come to the show. Thanks so much for the words of wisdom. Maybe just a final word of remark you can actually give to the audience who are watching this.
People have to start embracing and appreciating art, skills. I think many Kenyans are very skillful and very artful in what they do. So once you start appreciating that industry, which is art, you will open up a whole industry and employment for many other Kenyans.
Interesting. My goodness. I think I've really enjoyed this particular show, and hope you've learned a thing or two from our conversation with Ashok. And I think the message here is like, try to be the 1%, because if you're part of the 1%, you'll find yourself at the Capital Club where we are. And as always mentioned, you're always here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be, and Ashok will get you to be a part of this so that you can also get to be part of the 1%. Thanks so much for having watched the show. You can follow us across all social media platforms. My name is Ian Dennis. Until next time, I'll see you right here on KTN Home.